That's the important thing to understand. The suffering is going on, but there is no person suffering. And you look at the cause of this suffering. The cause is our blind emotion. It is the blind emotion that desires things and hates things. But the problem is, we cannot get what we desire. We cannot get rid of what we hate. That inability to gratify the emotion is the suffering. And that suffering is an uncomfortable feeling in the body and in the mind. That discomfort is the suffering. So you have to become aware of the discomfort and the cause of the discomfort, which is the emotion being frustrated. And the ending of this unpleasant experience is to get rid of the emotion. When the mind is free of the emotion, then there is no more suffering. And the only way to stop this emotion is to become conscious of that. So becoming conscious of this suffering that is going on within you and becoming conscious of the cause, the ending, and the way to end it. When you have understood that, without thinking of a self, because the self itself is caused by the emotion. And that is how you begin to suffer. With the suffering goes the idea of the self. So when you become aware of this, now I call this a paradigm shift. You know what a paradigm shift is? It is a shifting of the way you see what you normally see. That means there are two ways of looking at the same thing. One is called the existential way. Existential way means you are thinking, I am existing, you are existing, other people are existing, other things are existing. This is the existential way of seeing things. So when we think of a self-suffering, we are looking at it from the existential way. Now instead of looking at it from the existential way, we have to start looking at it from an experiential way. We have to see that as an experience, not as an existence. Suffering is an experience, a certain feeling. And the cause of suffering is also an experience, the emotion. And the ending of suffering is also an experience. And the way to end suffering, which is becoming conscious of what is going on, that is also an experience. So there is no existence. So it is only when we are able to see it from this experiential point of view that the Sakkaya Ditthi disappears. Sakkaya means Swakaya. Swa means one's own. Kaya means the body. If we think of the body as my body, or my feeling, or my thinking, you are personalizing the body, you are personalizing your feelings, you are personalizing your thinking. That continues the suffering. But now we are not looking at it in that way. That is existential way. Instead of personalizing, you look at it as it is. That is looking at it from the experiential point of view. Then the Sakkaya Ditthi disappears. And when the Sakkaya Ditthi disappears, Vicikiccha disappears. What is Vicikiccha? Vicikiccha is simply the oscillation of the mind. Now I spoke to you about the oscillation, going to two extremes, the polarity. That is the oscillation. Now the pendulum is oscillating, going from one direction to the other. So the mind is oscillating, going according to the emotions and going according to reason. Two ways. It's going up and down. That oscillation is Vicikiccha. It's not just doubt. Doubt looks like something, but it's not doubt, it's oscillation. The mind is going from one to the other. And that has to stop. The first step in the Noble Eightfold Path, first is Samma Ditthi. When we have got that first step, Samma Ditthi, what happens? The Sakkaya Ditthi disappears because you have understood the Dhamma properly. That means you have given up the existential way of looking and taken up the experiential way of looking at things. And then the second step is Samma Sankappa. Their Sankappa is turning your direction. If you are going towards the north, now you begin to go towards the south. Now that means when a desire arises, what do? You try to get what you want. When a hatred arises, what do? You try to get rid of what you hate. That is the normal person's way of living. But now we take the different way, which is going south. If north was the normal thing, now we are going south, which means when a desire arises, you try to get rid of the desire. When a hatred arises, you try to get rid of the hatred. That is Samma Sankappa. That is how the oscillation stops. You are not carried away by the emotion.